What is pitch accent? Or what is accent even? I think most people can tell what accent means, but the word has several definitions, so let's clarify it. According to Cambridge Dictionary, accent means the way in which people in a particular area, country, or social group pronounce words. An example sentence. He has a strong Southern accent or Boston accent. Yeah, I think this is what most people mean by accent. This almost means dialect, right? But this is not what I mean by accent. What I mean by accent is a special emphasis given to a particular syllable in a word. An example sentence. The accent falls on the final syllable. This means what in English? This means stress, right? For example, Japan. The stress falls on the second syllable. So let's keep in mind, by accent, I mean something like stress for now. In English, an accented syllable or stressed syllable is pronounced louder, longer, and higher in pitch. For example, banana. The stress is on the second syllable, so the second syllable is pronounced louder, longer, and higher in pitch. Contrary to English accent or English stress, accent in Japanese is expressed through pitch alone. Not loudness, not length, just high pitch or low pitch. That's why the Japanese accent is called pitch accent. For example, banana is pronounced banana in Japanese. High, low, low. Mm, mm, mm. Banana, banana. The accent is on the first syllable. The pitch drops right after the accented syllable. Banana, banana. From this example, you might think the only accented syllable is pronounced higher in pitch, but that's not the case. For example, katakana. The second and third syllables are pronounced higher in pitch, and the first and the last syllables are lower in pitch. Katakana. Katakana. Which is the accented syllable? The third one. As I said, after the accented syllable, the pitch always drops. So the reason why you identify the accented syllable is not because it is pronounced higher in pitch, but because the pitch drops right after the accented syllable. This is the characteristic of Japanese pitch accent. There are a lot of different pitch accent notations, but in my videos, I'll use this one. For example, neko. This shows the accent is on the first syllable, and then the pitch drops after the first syllable. Neko. In my pitch accent video series, I'll show you pitch accent patterns like this. This is easy to understand, but in my other videos, for example when I create vocabulary videos or something, I won't show this. I'll only use this notation to indicate where the accent is. So I want you to get used to this notation. By the way, I use the word syllable instead of mora. From now on, I'll use the word mora instead of syllable. You can think of mora as something like syllable for now, but if you haven't learned what mora is, I strongly recommend you watch this video. The link in the description. Depending on regions, Japanese has different pitch accent systems. For example, the Tokyo dialect and Kansai dialect have different pitch accent systems. What we are learning here is a pitch accent system in the Tokyo dialect, which is known as Standard Japanese. Since the Kansai dialect is popular with Japanese learners, especially with advanced learners, I'll probably cover the pitch accent system in the Kansai dialect in the future if there's a demand. But for now, let's focus on the pitch accent system in the Tokyo dialect. In standard Japanese, there are two pitch accent rules. 1. The first molar and the second molar always have different pitches. For example, banana. The first molar starts high in pitch, so the next molar must be low in pitch. Nihon. The first molar starts low in pitch, so the next molar must be high in pitch. 2. Once the pitch goes down, it never goes back up again within a word. This means there's only one peak within a word. So this kind of pitch accent pattern doesn't exist. With these rules in mind, let's learn pitch accent patterns in standard Japanese. There are 4 different pitch accent patterns in standard Japanese. 1. Head-high pattern. 2. Middle-high pattern. 3. Tail-high pattern. 4. Flat pattern. Depending on whether a word has an accent or not, I know there are actually words with no accent. Anyway, depending on whether a word has an accent or not, we can categorize these patterns into 2 groups: downstep type and flat type. Downstep type words have an accent. That means the pitch falls after the accented mora. Flat type words have no accent. That means the pitch doesn't fall within the word or at the next particle. Let's take a look at these patterns one by one. The first one is the head-high pattern. The first molar starts high in pitch. Following the rule number 1, the pitch drops after the first molar. This means the head-high pattern words have an accent on the first molar. Following the rule number 2, the rest of moras stay low in pitch. For example, banana. The pattern for this word is head-high. Banana. Banana. The second one is the middle-high pattern. The first molar starts low in pitch. Following the rule number 1, the pitch goes up after the first molar. The pitch stays high till the accented molar and it goes down. Following the rule number 2, the rest of moras stay low in pitch. For example, sakamichi. The pattern for this word is middle high. Sakamichi. Sakamichi. The third one is the tail-high pattern. The first molar starts low in pitch. Following the rule number 1, the pitch goes up after the first molar. The pitch stays high till the accented molar. In this pattern, the accent is on the last molar. So when a particle is attached, the pitch goes down before the particle. For example, imoto. The pattern for this word is tail high. So the accent is on the last molar. As I said, when the particle is attached, the pitch drops after the last molar. Imoto to. The last one is the flat pattern. The first mora starts low in pitch. Following the rule number 1, the pitch goes up after the first mora and stays high till the accented mora. But the flat pattern words don't have an accent. So the rest of moras stay high in pitch, including the particle after the word. That's the difference between the tail high pattern and the flat pattern. For example, 友達. The pattern for this word is flat. So this word has no accent. Even when the particle is attached, the pitch doesn't fall. Here's the comparison. うんうんうんうん。うんうんうんうんうん。妹と友達と妹と友達と For beginners, it might be difficult to perceive the difference in pitch because it's subtle. So let's do a listening practice with homophones to get used to it. Pitch accent works as a way to distinguish between homophones. うんうん、うんうん、雨、雨、うんうん、うんうん、今、今、うんうん、うんうん、日本、日本、うんうんうん、うんうんうん、うんうんうん、箸で、箸で、箸で After all the explanations I did, I want to address this question. Do you have to memorize the correct pitch accent pattern for every single Japanese word? This seems like a hot topic in the Japanese learning community. I mean, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to, but I would say, yeah, as many as possible. Because when you look up a word in a dictionary, don't you check the pronunciation along with the meaning of a word or example sentence? I do when I look up English words. Even if you're not familiar with IPA or stress markers, don't you at least listen to the audio pronunciation?
Ultracrepidarian.
Same thing with Japanese pitch accent. Memorizing the correct pitch accent patterns doesn't mean you can tell, like for example, you can tell the pitch accent pattern for the word Nihon is the middle high pattern or Nakadaka pattern. It doesn't mean that. Memorizing the correct pitch accent patterns means you can correctly pronounce Japanese words. The goal is not to familiarize yourself with some linguistics terminologies, but the goal is to pronounce Japanese words correctly. With that said, I'll tell you why learning pitch accent is beneficial. The first reason. When you look up Japanese verbs or adjectives in a dictionary, what you get is something called the dictionary form. For example, 行く. This verb is the Heiban type, the flat type. What about all the conjugation forms like 行きます、行きました、行って、行かない、行けば、行こう、行ける? Do you have to memorize the pitch accent patterns for all the conjugation forms of all verbs? No. Once you memorize the pitch accent patterns for the conjugation forms of a flat type verb, you can apply the patterns to all the other flat type verbs. For example, 買う、買います、買いました、買って、買わない、買えば、買おう、買える. The pitch accent patterns for both conjugation forms are the same. The same thing goes for the downstep type verbs as well, with few exceptions. This will save you time and effort. That's the first reason why you learn pitch accent. The other reason. If you learn pitch accent, you will have a better understanding of intonation. Read this sentence out loud and record yourself if you can. Now, compare your intonation to my intonation. 日本の大学で物理を勉強しています。日本の大学で物理を勉強しています。How did it go? For those who couldn't read the sentence quite like how I did, the intonation curve for this sentence is like this. To understand why the intonation goes up and down like this, you'll need a knowledge of pitch accent. Although I recommend shadowing practice to acquire natural Japanese intonation, learning the theory of Japanese intonation certainly helps. To understand the theory of Japanese intonation, you need to learn pitch accent. That's the other reason why you learn pitch accent, in my opinion. Lastly, let me introduce you to 3 dictionaries for Japanese pitch accent. The first one is Wiktionary. This is great. You can not only check a pitch accent pattern, but also check IPA with the audio pronunciation.
日本
The next one is OJAD. This is also great, but the UI design is not up to date. This dictionary shows all the conjugation forms with the audio pronunciation.
行って行って
The last one is the Japanese Language Pronunciation and Accent Dictionary. This is awesome. I have an iPhone app version. It's easy to use, it's easy to search, it shows conjugation forms with the audio pronunciation.
行く
But this one cost $55 in Japan. And I don't even know if the app version of this dictionary is available outside Japan. There's a paperback as well, but the paperback version of this dictionary is not for beginners. For intermediate to advanced learners, choosing a paperback is an option. It is available at least in the US. I'll put all the links in the description. Alright, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. And if you like this video, please make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. じゃあねー。